Yeah.
Yo, from Signal Flow Studios, you are listening to the Featured Presentation Podcast, where I interview the featured artists on my newest song. Who am I, you might ask? Well, I'm singer, songwriter, rapper, producer ZuP from Cleveland, Ohio. I've been in the Cleveland music scene for what feels like forever, and my most recent album won Scene Magazine's Best Local Album of 2023. But enough about me. Today we are here to talk about my new song called Phones at the Beach. It is produced by Chris DiCola, and it features Cleveland Scene Magazine's Best Rapper of 2023, this incredibly handsome and talented man across from me, Mr. Tobyraps. What's happening?
Little old me.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, ZuP.
How's it going, man?
That's good. That was a beautiful intro.
Thank you.
Wow, look at us. Look at us winners sitting at the table.
Yeah.
Feels good. Feels good.
This is a very winning podcast.
This is a very winning podcast, for real.
So, I appreciate you being here, man.
Yeah, man. Stoked to be here.
Yeah.
This is such a good idea, what you're doing.
Thank you.
It's such a good idea. I was working at I work at a coffee shop called the Copper Moon downtown. I think I've told you about it. And I was just talking to my customers before I came in today, and I was just like about to be going to podcast tonight. It's my boy ZuP. He's doing this thing where he's featuring the features on his songs. I just think it's such a genius idea.
Thank you, sir. Mm-hmm. I figured, like when you people put out songs or anything, it's like all the promotion is before the song comes out. Mm-hmm. Then the song comes out and a lot of people fall off, and it's what better way to promote than to just talk about how the song came to be.
Yeah, I think that's a really good just way to get people engaged in art, and just it's fun to just have to condense all of my thoughts on something into 16 bars is it's an art form in and of itself, but having the ability to kind of elaborate on it is sick.
Yeah, it's fun, man. Well, for the people that don't know who you are, who are living under a rock, let them know who Tobyraps is.
Tobyraps. Hi, I'm Ryan Toby. I go by Tobyraps, and I'm a rapper in Cleveland, Ohio. I've been playing shows outside of Cleveland, Ohio as of recently. Just got a band together, so we're a rapper who's ready for the road. Ready for the road. If you're listening to this and you're going on the road and you want an opening act, Tobyraps.
Man right
I'm
here.
ready. But yeah, I've been rapping I'm 31 years old right now. I started rapping when I was 16 years old. So do that math. 15 years I've been rapping. Started off rapping with my brother. We had a rock band mic.
Oh,
from the game Rock Band, which it had a USB that you could plug into your Xbox 360 or whatever.
Yeah.
So you could use that USB to plug into a computer too. And we downloaded a free trial of Mixcraft, which was Microsoft's GarageBand at the time.
Okay.
This is circa 2010. And we got a bunch of Kanye West beats and the likes, just some beats that we downloaded for free off of YouTube or the internet in general. And we made this mixtape about our private school. I went to Gilmore Academy, and we called it the GA mixtape. And it was, it was private school kids making rap music that weren't good at it. But it was I don't know. It sparked something in me. It was just I played hockey all my life. I played sports most of my life, and it wasn't until my senior year of high school I started rapping, poorly, but started, and I got into drama and theater.
Oh, yeah.
Which is, I should have done this whole, and I've always been center of attention, class clown. I've never been an athlete. When I was a senior in high school, I was the captain of the JV hockey team. I've never been an athlete. I'm athletic in general, but that's never been my lane. And it took me till my senior year of high school to get into the performing in general like that. And I just remember falling in love with just performing in general from speech and debate. I went to states in high school, my first year doing speech and debate.
Nice.
And,
I see it. I can see it.
It got me out of my shell. And then I got not a big scholarship, but just a little money off of Cleveland State to go to Cleveland State for college for theater, just to get a little money off. And so I was screw it. I mean, nobody else offered money. Nobody else was banging down my door.
Yeah.
So I went to Cleveland State, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. I'm sure, life, each decision branches off a whole different life. If I had gone to any other place, my life would be totally different. Maybe we never would have met,
Yeah.
But I went to Cleveland State, and I ended up meeting James Begin and Chris DiCola. Chris DiCola, the founder, not founder, Jake and Chris, but either way, head daddy over here at Signal Flow Studios, my producer, one of my best friends. So I met him and James Begin And our buddy Josh Ritchie too. Josh was the photo guy. James and I were rappers. Chris, producer. And I've been
Perfect
making music pretty much since then. Like really, I'd say, you know, it's verged from semi-serious. It's been like a gradual uptake until now. Now my life is structured around my ability to drop everything and make music.
I love it. Well, you're pretty fucking good at it. So.
Yeah, so.
And you lived in California for a little bit too.
Yeah, so I went after college. I was a street performer in Cleveland full time. Do you not know that? I don't know.
No, I did not know that.
Yeah,
no.
I was a street performer full time for like 3 years. It was 2015 to 2018 or 2018. And yeah, just people give me topics and I would make up songs off the top of my head about whatever they want, which is what I was doing with Chris and James and Josh in the dorms. We would go door to door at the dorms, and we would only play to chicks. That was the only rule.
Right, yeah.
Just to chicks. And we'd have, you know, they give us topics or we'd sing about them poorly, but it was, you know, developing a skill set. And then when I was done with college, it's like, dude, screw it. That was so much fun. And I'd street performed a little bit like in college, gone downtown and, you know, seen that I could make some money.
Right.
So I was living in a house. It was called the Plymouth House. It was a house venue, like a DIY house venue. We were throwing punk shows.
Those are the best.
Rent was cheap. And I was able to just, for 3 years, I made a living off of just being a street performer, making up songs for people. And then I wrote an album about that in 2018. I got a job, work as a line cook. And I was just like, you know, work nights, go to the studio with Chris. We produced the album during the day, work nights. And I grinded for a year, put out my first album. It's called Make People Smile. And then I moved to California. You know why I moved to California? It's crazy. Did you ever see the show The Sweet Life of Zach and Cody? Are you familiar with it? It's a Disney Channel show, and it's about two twins, Zach and Cody, and they live in the Tipton Hotel, owned by some guy named Tipton. His daughter is Tipton. London Tipton. She's a character on the show. Anyways, there's a janitor in the show, and his janitor's name is Arwen, but that actor's name is Brian Stepanek. And Brian Stepanek's been in, he was in The Green Book, which was a Oscar-winning thing. It was about like the piano player that like traveled around.
That sounds familiar.
It was a good movie. Anyway, so he's been in stuff. He was in Transformers, and his father is best friends with my grandfather.
Oh, wow.
So 2018, I just put out my first album. I'm working as a landscaper. I'm doing like building like patios, like hardscapes, just killing myself. I moved out of my freaking mom's house, or I moved out of my house into my mom's house, saving money, just breaking my back every day. And then my grandpa's like, if you're into entertainment, you should really meet up with that Brian Stepanek. So he set up a meeting. I met up with Brian Stepanek, and I watched his show, Sweet Life of Zach and Cody, when I was a kid. I was like, that's crazy. You're the janitor. You're Arwen.
Right.
And he's like, hey, man, if you're interested in entertaining at all, move to LA. Do it right now. Like, if you really take this seriously, I don't care what you're doing. I'm not a rapper, but if you're interested in anything,
yeah, any type of entertainment,
go to LA.
Yeah.
Because if you think you're good here, you're not. I mean, you're fine amongst here, but it's a small pond. It's like, you think you're good, go to LA, and then you find out how good you are.
Right.
You know? And I was just like, dude, I quit my job the next day. I called in. I was like, hey, man, I'm moving to LA. I'm not coming back. You know, it's not a great way to end things, but I was never going to be a landscaper, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And then I worked for my dad. He does a concrete work. My dad's always kind of shown love and offered me some manual labor. I stacked up some cash in like 2 months. I had like $5,000 in the bank, and I just moved out to LA with no plan. I made an album out there, met some friends. I used to cypher on Hollywood Boulevard. Me and my friends had like a speaker, and we would just play beats, and we'd freestyle rap and just have little ciphers on Hollywood Boulevard, which was like a big highlight of just like life for me. I think that's probably something I mostly take away from the three dudes I was doing it with. J Plus is their name, D and DMC, and Pure Ponder. And yeah, it was like a crash course in what it was to like be an MC, you know?
Right.
And then I moved back to Cleveland because of the pandemic, made another album with Chris. It's called Make Yourself Happy. It's a self-help book pretty much in an album. I'm making singles ever since, and then I met you a little later.
Yeah,
that's around the time that it meets up. Yeah.
And it's funny because the first time I saw you was at
your show, right? Or
no, before that actually. So do you call it Mayhalls or Mahals?
I'm a Mayhalls man.
Me too. Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right,
Nice.
I like that. So James had a show at Mayhalls. This was like 22 maybe.
Damn, that was probably the last show where Connor was alive too.
Yeah, I think so.
Because it was like Cicero, right? Or was it just I think Cicero.
Well, it was a show that he was like It Takes a Village. Like that was like the theme throughout.
I think that was a Cicero show, or maybe it was the one we did before that. But yeah.
But you had a full suit on.
Oh yeah.
And you had a mohawk, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't think you had any socks or shoes on, and you were hosting the show.
Yeah.
And I was like, who is this dude? Like, I was like locked in, right? And I think I'd seen you just like from James posting stuff, you know? And then you guys went up there and like did a few songs together, and I was like, okay, yeah, this dude can spit, right? So then fast forward to that tree lighting ceremony that year.
Wow.
I didn't even know who Apostle Jones was yet. I just went to the tree lighting ceremony, and they were up there performing. And then you went up and started performing, and I looked at Alicia, and I was like, I know that dude. I saw that dude at James's show, and she didn't even know who James was at the time. She was like, okay, yeah, whatever, you know. And then I didn't actually meet you until my album release party.
Until your album release party, yeah, the Foundry.
Yeah, you've always been killing it, though, so I was just like, yeah, I don't know.
That's so, and we were destined to meet. Dude, your
right.
show, though, your album release show was sweet.
That was a fun show.
That was a sweet night, man. That was packed house.
Yeah, you couldn't even like walk from one side
yeah, it
to
was
the other
like
side.
that was like one of the. I mean, I've seen a couple Foundry. I haven't been to the Foundry like for like as many shows. Like, I mean, I've been to every venue in Cleveland at this point, but it's the amount of shows at the Foundry is relatively smaller than other venues that I've seen in Cleveland. But a lot of them were like when I was like in college, or we were all playing in like scene bands. Mostly my buddy Josh's band. It's called Iron Bison.
Right.
Iron Bison's played there. The Glow Pop Jiggly Jams, which was Chris and James' high school band, they played the Foundry. So I'd mostly seen just like smaller type shows, or like big local shows at the time we were all kind of coming up.
Right.
And then so like seeing your show at the Foundry,
Yeah,
it was like the first time, like, wow, this is a wildly full place.
And it's so cool
how
being
it,
on
like,
stage. You could see
you can see all the. I love how it's a big tunnel.
Yeah. It's cool how that room is just kind of divided, but you still see the sea of heads over everything, you know? Yeah, that was a fun show.
That was dope.
I'm glad you were able to play that.
Mm-hmm.
What did you say? Well, so when you were recording out in LA, you said you did an album out there. Were you sending stuff back to Chris? Were you still working with Chris?
No, well, I was working with Chris, yeah, but I met this guy named Brendan. His dad like worked with my mother. They were just like, my mom's like a corporate lady, and I guess she must have just been at some conference or something. Talk to this dude, find out both their sons are in Los Angeles. They both make music. So my mom just was like, oh, you should go check. She had his number from the guy and gave me this guy's number. So I just called the guy. I was like, hey, apparently our parents met and you live in LA and you're getting into production. He goes, yeah, my dad said he met somebody. And so me and Brendan ended up becoming like real cool. We'd meet up. I lived in Glendale. He lived in, oh my God, it's like Hyde Park. I'm kind of forgetting the neighborhoods at this point. Doesn't really matter. But either way, he lived close to me. He lived like, I could bike there in like 30 minutes. Not even. I could bike there in like 20 minutes. And so then we started hanging out, and I asked him if I could use the studio, which wasn't even his. It was his roommate's studio. And the LA houses, there's like a front house, and sometimes they have like a back house. It's just a smaller thing. Like Bo Burnham's inside is just, it's one of those back houses in LA. So he had one of those, and his buddy ran a studio during the daytime, had clients come in and out of that house. And he said, yeah, we can use it, my buddy said, but we can't obviously fuck with his business. But he's like willing to let roommate was willing to let Brendan use it for free at nighttime. So I flew out Chris, and I had the album written. I was working a door-to-door sales job in LA. I worked that all summer. It was like 3 months. I worked for Greenpeace. I had to get people to like donate on a monthly basis to Greenpeace. Like, hey, global warming's messed up, right? Give Greenpeace $15 a month. No? All right, I'm going to go to the next house. That was my whole life for 3 months. And then I quit that. I was like, screw it. I'm like, I got to, door-to-door sales is just terrible. I wasn't that great at it either.
Not like that.
And I was like, screw it. I'm going to take a month off, which is an insane thing to do in LA because you're just hustling all the time. And I'm not going to work for like 3 weeks, and I'm just going to grind this album out. And so me and my roommate at the time, his name's J Plus, is an insanely good rapper from Albany, New York, lives in LA now. Me and him were just like, I basically have the songs. It's the first time I've worked with like a ghostwriter, like just a guy. It's like, I have 3 weeks to do this. You're the best rapper I know. I'm going to tell you what I'm going for. And we are going to hash this thing out. And like, I mean, I wrote a lot of it, but I mean, that was me and him basically. 3 weeks. We're just like, I'm like, this is what I'm trying to go for. And you just shoot me ideas. Like, I don't want that. I want this. I do like that. And we just kind of pieced it together. And then I flew Chris out to Los Angeles a month later.
Nice.
And we had 5 days that Chris was there, and I had practiced, we had a month. I wrote it in August. September, I practiced it. And then October, I flew Chris out. We had 5 days, and we would just like get into the studio at like 6 at night and we would work until like 2 a.m.
Oh wow.
We would just like work all night, and that's just and then we'd sleep all day. We'd get a late lunch or breakfast or whatever you want to call it,
right back at it.
And we go right back at it. And for 5 days, we just grinded, and we made. I think my second album's like 15 songs or something like. It's a decent amount of songs.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was cool. That was like the most fun.
Oh, dude, that's like
I've ever made. It was. I don't love because of the fact that I didn't have the chance to like re-record. I like a lot of the songs. I don't really listen to that album very often because it's like
yeah.
I play the songs still. Like some of my songs I play live.
Yeah.
Are songs that I wrote there. I think they're really well written songs. But it's just I think the inevitability of like you only had that one take, and I wasn't that good of a rapper then too. So there's just like little things about that album will always just like inevitably bug me.
Right, I get that.
But it was my favorite thing just to be able to just like we have 5 days we're doing this album as opposed to
you were out in LA. You meet this guy, you do all this stuff, you schedule it up, and you fly your buddy there. Like that's
so
dope. That's like such a.
And he'd never, Chris was early in his production.
Yeah, he's like, fuck yeah,
he's
let's
getting
go.
Flown out to LA to record an album, all his beats and stuff, and then we had one song on the album. It's called "LA Is Amazing." It's basically LA is amazing. There's so many places you could get on stage on a daily basis. Everybody came here hoping to get famous. That I'ma be the next to make it. Energy's contagious. Just basically, you can get on stage every day here. It's amazing. And we made that beat. That was the only beat that wasn't like pre-made. Somewhere. We made it in the studio. I had the general concept, and that was just so cool. We had spent a whole night. One of the 5 nights was just making that song start to finish.
I love that.
And it was just so cool. Yeah. I just like, you've made albums before.
Oh, yeah.
I'm working on 3 EPs right now, and I like have half an album done. It's like just the when are we done moment when you have all the time and to work on it. It's like, I think there's any rapper who's listening to this can relate, or artist in general.
Right.
You've been working on that novel for forever. When there's no time limit, you can effectively work on something for forever.
Absolutely. That is the best, Like you kind of like have a timeline in the sense of, I like to wrap this up in a couple years, you know what I mean? But like you don't have to stress about any of that shit. It helps more creative come out.
I think so too.
You're not rushing.
I think so. Yeah. Well, I was saying the opposite. I think I'm saying the opposite. That I think rushing it actually creates.
Oh, you think rushing it creates?
I think rushing it inevitably, like I said, there's inevitably I'm like kind of upset about certain certain things that bug me because I had a short time frame. But I like that it was just like, yep, and that's gonna be. We'll work on another one. I like the time frame of like rushing it because you're like, then you wipe your hands of it and be like, I guess I'll just work on another one. As opposed to when you have all the time to work on it. Yes, inevitably you're gonna make something you're probably more happy with, but. It's like the when are we done? It's just so hard to say when it's done if you can work on it forever,
I think James at my release show told me like that was like his technique was like when he's not on tour, he's just in the studio just creating just to create because he's just creating. You know what I mean? And that's like a very important thing. That's something that I lack a lot is that it's like you said, I'm like the complete opposite where I'm like I'm just gonna take my time, I'm not gonna push anything. But that's like how I work, and it works for me. But that's what makes it great because just like knocking stuff out all the time and doing like you were doing those TikToks for a while where you were just
duetting people.
Yeah, duetting people and stuff like that. Like that's something that I wouldn't be able to do, but you just do it like effortlessly, and it's a good
I'm kind of
exercise.
just developing a real fuck it mentality. Because I don't know, I've been a perfectionist for like a long time. Like one of my favorite artists is Kendrick Lamar, and I think like Kendrick Lamar taught me how to write an album, which is like, it's concept based.
Yep.
It's very well thought out. Every song is a crucial piece of the puzzle that cannot be removed. So like that's kind of what taught me how to write an album, and like that's amazing.
Yeah.
But Kendrick Lamar also puts out projects very infrequent because of that, and. I'm just not Kendrick, I'm just not as big as Kendrick Lamar. So if if I'm trying to be big, I think just lately at least, I've been taking much more of like a Lil Wayne approach to rap music, which is just quantity over quality to a certain degree. I mean, as I progress as an artist, the quality is just gonna get better.
For sure.
My one take is going to be more quality than my one take 6 months ago if I'm doing something every day.
Right.
Signal flow went away. There you go. Signal flow. But yeah, so that's kind of been but that's a pretty recent development as an artist. I haven't always been this way, but now I'm kind of like, I don't know, just to see what this side of the artistic spectrum's like. I'm just kind of very much like, fuck it, that's good enough, I'll make another. That's kind of been my art. That's kind of been my lane as an artist. And I think mostly because of those TikToks. They taught me that, because you only had, I didn't have a great mic. I just had those Apple headphones.
Right, yeah.
So, there's people who do those open verses, and they'll
and they got
they record it into something like this, and then they'll bounce the audio, and then they'll line it up to the video they took, and then really do it.
Right.
And that's beautiful, and I'm just not willing to put that much effort in. I think, I took those open verses as just an exercise, and just you have to get a good one take. The audio quality is going to be shit, but it's real. It's authentic, and and
it's what you're saying that's going to bring people back to watch you again. It's not the quality.
And I'm just getting better at rapping. The physical act of not just writing something down, but emoting and remembering and reciting.
And you brought up a good point with albums. So I've always been in an album mindset of, like you said, what's the theme? I was just on the Guiltless podcast the other day. I was talking to you about that, and I was telling him that same thing, that it was if I'm going to work on an album, I need a theme. I need a whole story that I need to tell, that all these songs got to go with. Where now, where I'm releasing a song every 2 months, I don't have to do that, and it's so
great,
liberating.
Right? It's pretty great.
Yeah,
welcome to the.
I know. I'm
welcome to
damn.
these waters.
Right. I'm okay, this is actually really fun, because now it's like with the song I did with James, Glizzy's. It's oh, I want to do this real boom bap hip hop song. Okay, fuck it. I'm just gonna do it. I don't have to worry if this fits on anything. You know what I mean?
Fits because it fits with itself.
Exactly.
And you're finding ways to still scratch that creative itch of you made this podcast. You're doing singles, which is inevitably you're not. It's not big. It's not conceptual. It's just small, hyper focused things. But I also love singles because I've been making singles for a while too. I got these 3 EPs I'm about to put out, but for the last 2 years, I've just been popping out singles on a relatively 2-month-ish basis or something like that. And same thing, I've realized with singles, what I love is that what I would usually, the creative energy that I would usually be spanning over 10, 12 songs.
Right.
So you're simultaneously editing 12 songs, especially when you have them all. You're into this the second draft of the album.
Right.
Just nitpicking a huge body of work. I think it's just inevitable. It's something is gonna slip through the cracks. It's just a certainty that you're just gonna be so exhausted, be I guess that's fine. I can't listen to this thing anymore.
Yeah.
And but if all that creative energy is focused on one song, I think there's just a higher chance that you're gonna be way more satisfied and stand on that single as an artist. I think it's gonna feel a lot more like a completed product.
Absolutely.
Art is never finished, just abandoned. But I think it's gonna feel a lot more finished every time you do a single. That's what I've realized. I feel like you feel that way too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But then, so you're doing those, but then you're doing this. So you're finding a way to kind of make it feel like a concept of an album, even though it's just singles that you're releasing.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been really fun because I'm not used to that, So it's just kind of experimenting and throwing things at the wall and seeing what works, with also just for the love of just making music,
Yeah.
It's great. The first song that I did, so like I said, you for sure inspired me, because I was seeing last year, last year I put the album out, and I was watching you and a couple other people just releasing songs here and there, you know what I mean? And that's what I want to say too. What's good about that is when I think about my album, I know there's a few songs on it that get glanced over, where it's I know this is a really good song, but people are more focused on these songs for whatever reason, right? But if this song had a spotlight on it, I'm sure people would really be oh, this is actually really dope,
Yeah.
And that's what kind of is good about releasing singles, because
everybody gets their moment.
Exactly. So I was watching you and a couple people doing that. I'm man, that's such a good idea. So that brings us to Phones at the Beach.
Nice.
The song we're here to talk about today, which is actually
which brings us to our single.
The first song that I did for this whole
single, the first single you had.
Yeah,
because it was a minute ago that you
so it was
me,
last
right?
August of 23.
Yeah.
So the story behind the song is that so in 2022 I went on vacation with my girlfriend Alicia, and I hadn't been on like an actual vacation for like 10 years probably,
Wow.
right? So like, you know, I take vacation days at work, but I never like
I'm taking a vacation.
Yeah, like I'm leaving the state and going somewhere
with the beach.
With the beach.
You know, it doesn't always have to be a beach when you're on vacation, but
if it's been 10 years, it's got to be
gotta be a beach.
Yeah. So we go to Ocean City, right? And it was like 8-hour drive, whatever. It was, you know, just a good like dip your toes in the water, no pun intended type thing.
Nice.
So we're there, and I'm just so happy. Like, dude, I'm finally on vacation. I don't have to worry about work for like a full week, whatever, you know. And we're walking on the beach, like literally walking on the beach, and I'm looking at the water and the sun and the clouds and everything. And
It's
I'm
10
just
years
like,
since you've been
I'm
on
like,
this
man,
vacation.
just soaking it up. I'm like, this is so great. And then I look over at the beach, and literally every single person I see at the beach is just sitting there on their phones. Like scrolling, taking selfies, maybe taking pictures or whatever, but like just sitting there. Nobody is looking at everything around, you know? I'm like, I could literally like, I don't know. No one even knew I was there. You know what I mean? So I was like, how the fuck are these people not enjoying this? You know, it's been 10 years since I've been here, right? Man. So I'm like, I'm gonna write a song about that, right? Like I was like, it's gonna be a metaphor for like, you know,
just engagement with a beautiful, technology, nature. It's a trope as old as technology.
Exactly, right? So like, before I went on vacation, I was browsing Chris DiCola's Beat Star or whatever page or whatever, right? Just listen to some of his beats. I found this beat that I really liked. I was like, oh man, this is really catchy. Go on vacation, whatever. While I'm on vacation, I'm like, maybe that beat would be something that'd be good to do this song to. So fast forward, because my album wasn't even out at that point. So fast forward to 2023, I released my album. I'm like, all right, I'm getting the itch to record again. You know, I'm like, this is finally out. And then I think I was like walking through the metro parks, and it was like one of those moments where like I actually like was appreciating shit, where I was like,
oh wow,
damn, like look at that tree. You know what I mean? Like you just like take for granted.
Sometimes it hits.
Yeah,
so it just be hitting.
Yeah, so it was hitting for sure that day, and I was like, oh yeah, that phone's at the beach idea. I'm gonna hit Chris up right now, and I'm gonna be like, you know. So I hit Chris up.
You just remember the beat. You're like, I remember what beat it was.
Yeah, so I was like, hey, this beat, whatever the name of it was.
Let me cop that.
That's what I want. He's like, man, Tobyraps just took that beat last week.
Did I really?
I swear to God.
No way.
I have it on my text what the name of the song is because I asked Chris. He looked it up today.
Okay, so it was a different beat?
It was a different beat.
Okay.
I just thought that was so funny. But anyways, then it got me thinking. I was like, oh, so I was like, all right. He's like, here, man, just listen to more beats. So then I found the one that we ended up using, and I was like, fuck, I'm going to ask Toby to be on this song because this is like works perfectly.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
And I've been doing the phone died stuff thing for a minute too.
Right.
Which is, my relationship with technology is similar to, like, as soon as you sent me that beat, that's wild. All right, that's crazy that you, like...
I was, like, too slow, you know what I mean?
Well, not even that, but what's crazy to me is that, like, you sat on that, like... I imagine, because I've heard the story before where you said, you know, basically it's just what the chorus of the song is, is the story behind the song. And I just, I've heard the story before, and I assumed it was like the same thing. So you're saying you had that, and then, you know, you drop your album. I didn't realize that.
Oh, yeah, I sat on it for a long time.
And you're just walking through the Metro Park like, oh, I did have that idea. Let's pull that up. That's such an interesting thing to, like, I don't know, from like an artistic standpoint. I think that's very interesting. Because it's like, I feel often when I'm writing songs that like, I'm like super freaking psycho of like when inspiration strikes.
Oh, you gotta.
If you have a girlfriend as well, you're a rapper with a girlfriend. I'm sure she's seen it too. And my girlfriend, like, that's all I'm doing today. Like if something struck, like even. If we're on a date, I'm gonna continue being on this date. I'm not just gonna leave. But like,
when the date's
over,
it
will be very obvious to her, even on the date, that like I'm rhyming words in my head. So because I'm just like have this this manic energy that like I gotta catch it. I gotta bottle this in. I gotta bottle it while it's striking, and because I'm just afraid if I come back to it, it's just not gonna feel like this moment is what inspired
it.
That,
yeah.
So that's crazy that you bottled it and you saved it and then opened up, and it's because it like the song feels in general like you wrote it that moment.
Well, it was just the idea, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, this is such a ludicrous thing that's happening right now. These people just not even paying attention to where they are. Like, I'm just going to remember that, you know? And then I just went about my vacation. Yeah. Know? And then it wasn't until I was walking through the metro parks and I'm like,
that really could have ruined the vacation.
Yeah, for sure, you know? Then I'm like, all right. But I didn't start writing to it at all. So, like, the beat that you ended up getting, like, there was nothing written, you know? I just knew that I really liked that beat. And like I said, my album wasn't even out yet, and I'm just really weird about that shit. So, like, I finished my album, like, in July of 22 and didn't release it till May of 23. So I was just, like, hyper focused on that, you know? So once that came out, that's when I'm like, all right, I feel good enough to, like, take these ideas I've had and try to write songs about them and, like, inspire myself again. But yeah, so I didn't start writing. I had no clue. I didn't even want to call it Phones at the Beach. Phones at the Beach was just the idea originally, you know?
Wow.
And then when I heard the beat that is now the beat to it, then I was, like, super inspired, you know? Like, I just, like, took myself back to that feeling.
You were, yeah.
Yeah. And, like, when I write music, my track record is to, like, I don't really write happy songs. So I'm trying to change that. I might like write a song that ends up happy, but it's like, let me show you all this shit I went through to get to this happy point. You know what I mean? So this was like the first song I wrote where it was like, don't even talk about bad stuff. Let's just talk about being positive the whole time, which was like so hard for me to do for some reason. Yeah. So which was like a big insight to myself. Apparently I was like, okay, yeah, maybe,
take more vacations.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it was fun to do because it was like so hard for me. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I kept rewriting stuff because I kept writing something a little dark to go into it. And I was like, don't do that. Don't do that. And I kind of do. Like at the one point I say something like, you know, we're inching a little bit farther away from the beginning. You know what I mean? Like that's not too dark, but it was like, fuck it, I'm leaving it in there. You know what I mean? Like, I'm talking about we're going to die one day, but you know what I mean? It's like, it was a fun exercise for me because I never just like write so positive, I guess. And it came out great. I love it.
I love it too. I think it's like, and it is positive. I mean, in general, like the song is very positive. It holds with it, you know, a bit of a, you know, like a mirror to society, a mirror up to society. It's a critique on society, which is, you know, we all feel these with our phones.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy, just in my own music, and I think this song kind of embodies the genre I've been trying to like make for a while, that it's like a lot of my stuff too is not necessarily, people say my music is very positive. I don't often write, I wouldn't think if like explicitly positive song, they're often like very critical, very self-critical, very society critical, but they're in a major key.
Yeah, and
and again, you start with the thing and you get to what you learn. So you get to take away like a nugget of wisdom, and I think that's what comes across as positive for people. But yeah, like everybody looking at their phones at the beach is like kind of a grim, dystopian kind of like imagery. But then you bring it into Not Me, which is like very empowering. But yeah, I think it's funny that like you're making positive music that is like not necessarily positive, but it's in a major key, and you know, you do take a nugget away. But
and you can, you know, I've talked about this before, but I love putting sad songs and masking them over happy music.
I think that's
it's like such a, I don't know what the psychology is behind that, but it's like my favorite thing.
It's great. There's like that Mighty Misk song, he's got a song about making a song about depression that isn't depressing.
Yeah, yep.
And it's just like a very timeless thing.
Yeah.
Timeless thing. Yeah, I think it's just like, I don't know. We've all felt like fun. We've all felt in our feels on a sad song. I mean, I love me a good sad song.
For sure.
But I think, I like the juxtaposition of critical and sad and pop music. I love that from like, I even listen to AJR. They're a pop group. They do that very well. What we're describing, just like sad songs probably as far as like concepts are concerned, but just like major key, happy tone, and almost like satirical lyrics.
Yeah.
They're super good at it. They're like big inspiration for me.
You know who I found like last year, and I was like listening to him, like, man, Toby would probably love these guys, and I looked and you were already following them. Lawrence.
Oh yeah.
Oh
Lawrence
my God,
rules.
they're so good.
They're so good.
And that's like another one that's like, just like, I don't know. They're like, music's just like, not theatrical, but it's just so.
Theatrical is a good way to put it.
It's just
Definitely.
like so big. You know what I mean? I'm like, you could throw Toby on any of these songs.
Yeah, I actually found them from a dude named John Bellion. And I found AJR from John Bellion. John Bellion is like the grandfather of this.
He's
situation.
a producer, right?
Producer and singer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's really fucking
He's
good.
so amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that kind of music. That big, again, you know, real raw lyricism and like not necessarily like, I think people think positive and they think like children's music or like, you know, everything's Irie, man. It's like, these are dark topics this dude's taking on, but you know, he does it in a very uplifting, big music, big band kind of way.
Right.
That I really love. I love that kind of music. It hits for me. It's my favorite genre. You know, I'm just making my favorite genre. So when you sent me that song, I was stoked.
Yeah. So walk me through that process then. So like I sent you the song or whatever. Like, did you?
But you caught me at a perfect time. I don't know if you remember the text that I sent you because like you sent me the instrumental and gave me the concept. And I don't know. I don't actually know if I was in London at the time, but I think I was. I was either about to go or I was in London with my family.
I feel like you were about to go.
I think I was about to go. And so I was just like, yo, yes, can't wait. Will love to. Love the concept for the song. Love the song. And I'm about to take an international flight. Like that, if you're a writer and you have an international or even a flight from like the East Coast to the West Coast, that is like a writer's wet dream.
Yeah.
If you give me like a purpose and a creative task, especially a feature where it's like I don't have to wonder about what to write. Songs are tough because I have to come up with a concept, then I have to come up with a hook of what's catchy, and critique that hook. Then you work on verses. Features, like everything's done and the concept's already painted.
Right.
I just have to like put my little Salt Bay on top of it. So it's amazing when you get a feature on it. It's my first time. Actually, that's not true. I had another feature. I featured on Tropidelic's album, The Hard North, and there's a remix to their song If I Die Tomorrow. It's one of my favorite verses I've ever written too, because they sent it to me on an international flight. I was in South Africa with my grandfather and I flew back and wrote it. So this is another one. Second feature.
I love it.
For an international flight, and it's just amazing. So yeah, I wrote it on the plane and then I sat on it. Like I wrote on the plane to London, and I just sat on what I had. I think I might have touched it a little bit when I was like walking around London or something, but mostly just kind of like let it be in that notebook. Like I was telling you before we started recording, the notebook that I wrote this verse in is, I bought it in Denver. It was a $50 notebook. I should have brought it with me today, and I didn't. I don't know why I didn't think about it, but it's about this big. I mean, it's about this big. It has like these frayed almost like papyrus looking pages, and it's like a black leather that like wraps around. It's just really rustic. It feels like an old Bible, like a tome, like a wizard's book.
Right. It looks like it's worth $50.
It looks like it was worth, or you could con someone into paying $50 in Denver for it. And they did.
Yep.
And it's like so big and nice that it's intimidating to me. So I brought that book. I've been sitting on that book probably since June. I had been sitting on it. So you sent me that. It's 3 months I've been sitting on that book. I'm like, I finally have something worthy.
Right.
And I wrote the first pass at the verse. I probably had most of it, like everything up to the ending. And then I read it in the airport. We were waiting in London to get on our flight to go back to the States. And I was with my cousins. And I was like, I'm doing a feature for my dude in Cleveland. And I like wrote this on the plane. Like, give me some feedback. Like, let me listen. I rapped it to my cousin Libby, and they were like, "That's amazing." They're like, "That's incredible." I don't often rap in my family. I'm the only rapper in my family, so I don't I don't rap actively around my family. They've all listened to my music. They're very nice and supportive, but I feel like when I actually rap in front of them, like, wow, that guy really actually has a skill set.
Right. Yeah.
So I was like, sick. And then I got on the plane and I finished it up, and I just like, man, I remember that one line that I wrote. My favorite line in this verse that I have, I might have to go back to like remember it, but prison time, killing time, getting by, searching for a silver line, quick to criticize, but living infinite different lives.
I love that. That's my favorite.
It's one of my favorite things I've ever written, man.
That's so good.
It's like, yeah, so I wrote that. That was like, I remember writing that actually before I got on the plane to go back to the States. Like I wrote that in the airport, and I was just like, oh, and my cousin was with me. I read the verse and I wrote that, and she's like, oh yeah, you keep going, man.
Yeah.
So
no, that shit oh my God, that's when we have band practice and we rehearse or whatever, and I'll like do the ad libs to your part. Like we'll just leave it empty, you know. And anytime that part comes on, I'm just like, I rap it like I wrote it. You know what I mean?
Fun.
It's so good.
It's so fun to say. You have those things like that you write. You're like, that is fun to say. Or like, you know, I don't even know who says this line. It's very famous. Dead in the middle, a little did he know the whatever. I know. I'm a bad rapper. Damn. All right, I'm a bad rapper.
Same.
You've caught me. All right. Let's move past. I know that it exists, though.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, you're right.
Anyway, something like that that's just so fun to say.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good. I remember because I didn't even know you were home or you were going to because you like came home and then you were at the studio like the next day, I felt like.
Yeah, it was pretty close. Stoked. I loved it. I was like, oh, I'm pumped.
And I like just got in my car after work and I like opened my phone up.
Always
while I'm
driving.
driving. Yeah.
When you get a feature,
yeah.
Always sick.
So I sit in my car and I open up and I see like notification, Christopher DiCola. And
especially a professionally one, because, you know, sometimes people send you a feature and they record it in their bedroom or they record it on their phone real quick. You're like, okay, I'm going to go in the studio and do it, but I just wanted to get the idea.
Right.
You got a professional
so that's why I didn't
even
know what your verse sounded like. You know what I mean? So like the first time I heard it was you like studio quality.
Yeah, like with the sauce on it too.
Yeah, and I was just like, I just kept listening over and over again. I'm like, what the fuck? This is so good. And then, you know, my buddy Brad Pewitt, he mixes all my stuff. He's out in LA. So when I sent him the song to be mixed and mastered or whatever, I was like, all I just wrote was ... Tobyraps verse ... And then when he was done, he was like, whoo, like, you know, he's like, no, this song's great, but Toby fucking.
I was stoked on it. Thanks, man. I really like that verse a lot. I just think it's like, I mean, I'm addicted to this stuff. I mean, if you're listening to this. Or you're watching this, you're probably on your cell phone. This gets meta. You might actually end up turning it off. This gets very meta when you talk this way, but it's like, it's just crazy to me. I really started thinking about this when I saw Inside by Bo Burnham. That's like a big, like, that Netflix special is a big former of like my worldview. And like the central theme of it's Bo Burnham. Have you seen it? Mm-hmm. So he's alone in this back house, like I was talking about in LA. They have the back. He's in this back house, which is just basically one room, and he's trying to make a one-man show special, like a comedy special, but it's during 2020, so he can't. So instead of doing like a show that he would have taken on the road, he films the process of creation. This is like we were talking about, like, how do you know when an album's finished? He tackles that as an artist on film, and he makes a movie, makes a 1 hour special about making a 1 hour special. And it's just him. He produces everything and he sets up all the lights. He does everything himself. And really what it is, it's a study of a human's relationship to specifically a camera, to like knowing that they're being filmed, constantly monitored. And then obviously like monitoring yourself, like watching the take, editing your take, like very similar to what you do as a content creator, what I do as a content creator. It's just the hyper fixation on the creating it's having a moment, it's planning a moment and then going and having that moment, but it never happened organically. It's because you plan to make content. It's just that weird Hall of Mirrors effect this is what this whole thing's about. So I watched this thing, and this man, he goes crazy. He plans on it. It's a narrative, but like, he basically goes crazy because all he's doing is trying to perform to a camera, which gives him nothing. Yeah. And he's trying to create a live show to a camera. It just can't happen. It's just impossible. So I've just been thinking about phones in general. I'm still pretty addicted to my cell phone. I'm very good at like knowing the words to say to myself. But it's insane how addictive these things are and how many things I can watch and how easy it is to get lost in, how invested I am in people's lives that I don't know at all, and how many opinions I have of people's lives that I really like never interact with. It's insane what it's doing to me. And I'm like, I don't know.
And being like a content creator or a musician. Well, I mean, if you're a musician nowadays, you're a content creator.
Well, yeah, and then there's the aspect of like
analytics.
I
And
can't, yeah, and and you, if you're trying to frickin' make it, man, good luck if you can do it off this phone. I don't know how. If you know how to make it and not have to make content weekly, make videos of my raps so you guys will listen to my songs and make these 1-minute videos with lyrics on them. If you know how to do that without engaging the internet, please take me aside and tell me how to do this grassroots without ever using my phone, because I don't know if it can be done. I think if you want to make music, you could do it for yourself, and that's a real romantic idea of making music for yourself, and it's just for me. But I want to make it as a living. I work too hard.
That's right.
And all of my favorite people do it for a living,
That's
and
right.
I want to be like my favorite people.
I'm with you.
So I got to use my phone, and it's just that weird line of like, when am I working versus when am I using? Because I kind of have to justify it using it for work, but then. Well, then there's a funny vegan food. Then there's a vegan. I get a lot of vegan cooking videos, like vegan desserts specifically.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And you just made me think about something. So I just went on vacation
again
a couple of weeks ago.
Nice, good. It wasn't another 10 years. That's great.
Right? Yeah.
Went to Panama.
It was Panama. Yeah.
Holy heck.
My first time being out of the States, not Canada.
Wow.
So that was awesome. But I had just released my Lightning Rod remix with like Shrub and Mellow, and it was just like getting all these streams, and I had to like take time out of my vacation to like make sure that I was still engaging and stuff. And now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, my first vacation in 10 years, I'm like, look at these assholes on their phone. And then fast forward 2 years, I'm over here like, hold on one second.
You heard it here.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the same way. I don't know. Like,
I'm a fraud.
I'm a fraud too, though. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm a friggin'. And you know what? I'm only a fraud because I don't think I'm a fraud. I think I can justify, but I might be a fraud if you think that I'm away, that I'm just not. Right. And that's just on you, though.
Yeah, that's a you thing. That's a you problem.
You've conjured what you think I am, based on the evidence that you've gotten through. If you have it just from the internet, I think that's called a parasocial relationship. If you know me in person, we've gotten some exchanges, then you have a more complete picture of me. But if I let you down, that's on you.
Yeah, that's not a Toby problem. That's a you problem.
That's a you problem. I think they call that gaslighting. I think that's
that's for sure. Yeah.
I think that's gaslighting.
But yeah, I like creating content though. It is
me
fun
too.
to
It's
do,
fun. And it's a simple sense of purpose, which like in this purposeless existence. It's just as good as anything. I think it's nothing. There's goods and bads to everything too, because I do think it's creative. It's fun. It's like we're making things. Humans are meant to make things. Yeah. We're making things constantly.
Just looking at views and analytics and like I'm Googling what's the best day to post something.
That's when it starts.
What I mean?
And it's because of the dopamine, dude. That's what's crazy. And I mean, I'm sure like musicians specifically, you'll know like your Spotify for Artists app, like. Just like having access to just that raw data, so seeing what your audience is, but just seeing that number and like what it does to you can feel it. It's a drug. When that number's up and you see people are streaming your music and you're like seeing results, you're like, holy heck, what's going on? It's working, mama, we made it. And then, but like, that's just like release week. And then and then you look at it on just like you haven't put out a song in a month, you have it, whatever. And you see that it's like nobody listening right now. You see that zero when you see that nobody listening right now.
Oh yeah,
it's crazy.
You'll
feel low, man.
Yeah.
The same thing is true. I've not gone like millions of views viral on the internet, but I've had like small viral moments where like large amounts of people have viewed a piece of content that I've made. Or listened to a song, and I'll see that like correlated one on like Spotify for Artists app. So you're getting a dopamine hit from Spotify for Artists of people who saw it on TikTok, and you're getting that dopamine rush, like and it's just and it means nothing, and it's all imaginary, but it's so real, and it's such a crazy drug, and that is where, the addiction comes in, and that's I think where. I mean, I just know that that's a problem. I'm not saying I'm not engaging with it, but that's like the thing that I'm trying to critique in myself, just to remind myself, maybe not even to critique society. It's more like to remind myself, this is crazy addictive. I went to dinner once with my grandparents. This is like 2014, 13. I'm in college. It's my birthday. And I just gotten into using Instagram, which was Tobyraps, by the way. I was originally Toby. And then Matt Rhodes of Trop was like, you should change your artist name to Tobyraps, which is your Instagram handle, because nobody can find you under Toby. Like, it's just
true. Yeah,
you're getting lost in Tobys, man. You should change Tobyraps. And I was like, it was a hard decision because I knew you're going to lose all your streams. You know, you have to re-upload all your whole thing. And I did it. Best decision I ever made.
Yeah.
Matt Rhodes.
Shout out.
Best decision I ever made. Amazing. But I asked my grandparents at this dinner when it was my birthday dinner, like, you don't know what it's like to get a like. You don't know what a dopamine rush of like a like. I just got an Instagram, like I said, and starting to think about like when I got like 6 likes or when I got 30 likes, when you just, or 50. Oh my God, what that would feel like.
Right.
And I knew their answer. Obviously, they were going to be like, what is that? What are you talking about? But it's just like, it really dawned on me how crazy it was that is a living person. That's a breathing person who's going to pay for dinner.
Yeah. Yep.
And they live a completely, I mean, that is so integral in my day-to-day and has been for years.
Right.
Of like, it's part of my psychology at this point, like getting a dopamine rush from likes or streams or analytics.
Right.
You know, likes, you know, as your intro, if you're just a user on Instagram, just a regular user, but, you know, a little heavier users like me and ZuP.
Yeah.
Then you start to get into these more complex way of getting that same dopamine of like, people like me. Really, it's just at its base level. Right. It's just, I am loved.
Right.
I am seen. I am heard. I am loved. Just getting what our parents never gave us. I'm just kidding. My mom gave me plenty of, and my mom gave me plenty of love, and I still need this.
I know.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's a crazy world.
It's wild, this technology, man. I don't, I keep these thoughts to myself because you can't talk about them very often in the world, but on a podcast about a song about it, I guess we get it out.
Man, if there was like a cyber attack or something that just like wiped out the internet, people would chaos. Yeah. Pure chaos.
Oh, yeah. It would completely uproot society.
Yeah. I'd be one of them with the pitchforks.
Yeah.
No.
I know.
Give me my internet back.
I really wonder what withdrawal would feel like.
Yeah.
You know? Because I would never. I just like can't as an artist. Again, and this is like, unless someone could tell me how to do this stuff and get big and famous without using this thing, then I can't. I'm going to be using this device.
You're so right, because that's always my excuse.
I'm going to use it till I pop, for sure.
Yeah, it's like, no, I can't get rid of it.
And then we buy somebody, J. Cole doesn't use his Instagram.
Right.
Even as a bar on his last project. Do I look like a fool without G? Yeah.
I love J. Cole.
I do too.
Yeah, my excuse to myself is, I'm doing music. I can't get rid of my Facebook.
Yeah.
I can't.
You can't. That's a real truth.
Yeah.
That's not an excuse. That's a real truth. But yeah, it's crazy. I'm like, I wonder what withdrawal would feel like if we just did a month.
I know, like a dry January, but with your phone.
Your phone would be crazy. I mean, I don't even know if it's possible because I have money. It is possible. That's what's crazy. I even said I don't even know if it's possible.
Yeah, you're right.
My card is on there. My banking and like just communicating, texts, schedule, my calendar, just a lot of it my whole life. So it would be tough and almost irresponsible. Even a month off social media is probably even healthy.
Yeah.
Even if you still have access to like a cell phone to be communicated with.
Right. Yeah, but that's like the starting point.
That's the starting point, but even just like no phone.
Yeah.
Wow. What would that feel like? You couldn't even, I just had to make an excuse. I just had to walk down from no phone to just no social media. Be like, well, let's be reasonable here. We can't, we can't do no time. Like,
and I was about to walk down from just one thing.
Yeah, you get one
media.
on Sunday.
Yeah, like I can still use Facebook.
Facebook's fine, but yeah exactly, because that's more like a phone at this point. You know,
that's
right?
Yeah,
Facebook's like saying a rotary telephone at this point on the internet. You know, that's so funny. But Meta, Meta is. Have you ever read the book Ready Player One? I don't know what's our time on that.
Oh, we're good. We're good. We got it whenever we can.
All right, cool. Yeah, we just been talking. Wow, I love that. You never read Ready Player One?
I have. So I
saw the movie too.
I have really bad ADD, so I've never been able to read a book without like.
Oh, I listen to books. Whenever I tell you I read a book, I listen to it.
Yeah, so that was my first audiobook, and I actually sat there and read it with him.
With Ernest Cline.
And
dude,
then,
he's so good in that.
And then I went to Columbus like maybe a month after I finished reading it because a movie was about to come out, and I met Ernest Cline. He did a book
way. Wait, yeah, and Ernest Cline. It's this Clive. I don't know. It's this other guy is the guy who narrated because Ernest Cline is the author, right?
Oh yeah, and Will Wheaton is
Will Wheaton is the narrator. Yeah, damn. And I've listened to that book like 6 times.
Oh shit.
That's why I know those. It just narrated by Will Wheaton.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's such a good book, and that's crazy you saw him in Columbus because that's like, if you haven't read the book or heard it or listened to it, like the rest of us,
yeah.
Columbus is just like is the hub of technology, and humanity pretty much lives in this alternate reality. If Meta's got their Oculus, it's that in 50 years, which like is that that's crazy. It's crazy when you see a science fiction movie and then a product comes out. I remember they put out a product called iRobot. I think they're like more like robotic vacuums, but it's called iRobot. And you're just, as soon as it came on the market, you're like, well, yeah, but if they keep doing it and doing it and doing it, and a personal assistant's going to be a robot and they're going to, that's crazy. And then same thing with the freaking Oculus.
Yeah.
Just like, I mean, I've seen the narrative that plays out. I've ever read that book.
We just don't care. Like humanity like gets the warnings and they just don't care. I don't get it. What was it? It was that Second Life? No, it wasn't Second Life, but there was something going on a couple years ago where you could like buy real estate in like a virtual reality.
I think it's like Second Life or Second Earth.
Something like that, yeah. And like people were like literally
buying
doing
fake
that,
land.
like buying fake land.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay.
Which is just, I guess, as arbitrary. I don't actually understand crypto very much.
Me neither.
But
I
imagine it's just as arbitrary as cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
Which is just wild. I read a book recently, and again, I mean listened to. It's called Sapiens, and it is the history of humans, of Homo sapiens. So, it's broad. Homo sapien, right after the evolution, this is early.
Right.
Barely using tools, maybe not even using tools, just Homo sapien. And it's the Homo sapien from then to now and projected into the future. And it's so crazy the way he describes it because it's pure scientific. There's no God in this. God was made up. I mean, is the stance of this book pretty much. Because it's like, they're trying not to take any of that into consideration. It's just this thing. It's an anthropology study of this thing and what it did, and just based on the data we have. And the stance they take is that it's all made up. Homo sapiens developed language, and from language, they kind of, their cortex, I don't know, their brain, they start thinking more, and their brains are developing. I found out that our language mostly evolved because of our tendency to gossip about other humans. That was an interesting point of the book. Like, it wasn't like, oh my God, that's a lion, or food this way. We had those, but what really like popped up language would like led it to be the building block of thought. And eventually from thought, we get to just like make believe, which is where that's where banking comes. That's where money comes from. That's where God comes from. All of our ability to just fiction.
Right. Yeah.
But first, it starts with just gossiping. It just talk about who fucking on who in the tribe is a huge basis, and it's crazy because you can see it in all of it. Like it's
all of
us to our core are busybody gossip heads. Yep. We're talking about it's everybody.
Yeah,
everybody. You're talking shit. You're talking shit on somebody else always.
But now, just think: the more shit you talk about somebody else, the more you're helping civilization evolve.
Yeah, well, that's true. It's been going on. Yeah, talking shit got us here.
Yep.
Talking shit got us nuclear bombs. So I don't know if here's actually that great.
Yeah, no, yeah. I was just watching Idiocracy the other day. Do you remember that movie?
No, that's kind of scratch. I don't really know what that is.
It was Mike Judge who created Beavis and Butthead.
Okay.
So he made a movie with Luke Wilson.
Okay.
And it was like Luke Wilson worked for the military, and he decided to sign up for some program where he would be frozen for a year, and then whatever, right? Mm-hmm. Something happens. He ends up being stuck in this. It's like Futurama. He's like stuck in this frozen thing for like
years,
a long time.
And then he comes out in the future.
He comes out in the future, and humanity has devolved essentially, and everybody's just a fucking idiot.
Wow.
And like just so stupid. But they showed at the beginning of the movie, in which I totally forgot about this, they showed like a rich couple, and they're like, oh, we're not ready to have kids yet. Like, we're not financially stable for it. And then it showed like hillbillies essentially, and they were just all sleeping with each other, and it was like showing the family trees like popping up. Then it would go back to the rich people like 5 years later, and they're like, you know, I only got one job right now, and she's got a job, but I think we need 2 jobs to like raise a kid or whatever. Then it goes back to the hillbilly, and that's like the tree is just expanding. And then it goes back, and then the guy can't have kids now at this point. And so essentially what the movie was saying was that like all the stupid people are just making kids, and it's just made everybody dumb pretty much. But I fell asleep, so I didn't get to finish it. It's been a long time since I've seen it.
Damn, that's crazy.
It's it's just like a scary future. Because of we're like WALL-E essentially too, the movie WALL-E.
Oh,
everybody's just
huge movie for me.
You know what I mean? Just glued to everything. But I guess the point of what we're trying to say is,
by and large,
yes,
that's the company in WALL-E, right?
Yeah. Just enjoy life. You know what I mean? Like I said, go to the metro parks, go to a wooded area, or go to a city. You know what I mean?
And, you know, film some content.
I
get it.
But yeah, just like enjoy it, man. I remember I talked about this when I had Vino on here, sort of. But I was like, at one point, my therapist was like teaching me to like do stuff by myself. Mm-hmm. You don't need a partner. You don't need friends. Just go do stuff by yourself. And she told me to go downtown. They had like the ice skating rink. This is like in January. And she's like, go ice skating by yourself. Like, why not? Like, you don't need somebody to do that. Park somewhere far away from where the ice skating rink is and walk and just act like you've never seen Cleveland before. So I did, and I will like never forget that day. It was like one of the best days because I was like appreciating all these things that I'd see all the time. And then I was just like ice skating the fucking Justin Bieber by myself. You know what I mean?
So
you know what I mean? It was like such like one of those moments that like those defining moments, you know, but when you really like take yourself out and really just focus on stuff, it makes such a huge difference.
Yeah. And that's something that I think I imagine you probably didn't look at your phone very much that day too. You know, like,
yeah, I didn't.
You leave it at home or you don't look at it. You just kind of put it on Do Not Disturb, where you just like, to just know that you're not with anyone here or you're not with anyone you know here. Yep. Just to really, that is like the biggest thing I think that I took away from Los Angeles. I think everybody should live somewhere that they weren't born.
Yeah.
If you can. If you can't, you definitely should at least do these mini things where you go somewhere to do something by yourself.
And that's scary for a lot of people. And that's what's great.
I haven't done it in a while, man. Honestly, because that's like a big part of I was a street performer by myself. I've done that a lot of my life, and it's built a pretty cool person that I'm proud of. Yeah. But I have not done that in a while. Just like gone rollerblading by myself, just doing, and that's just because I'm busy, you know.
Yeah.
We find reasons to fill up our schedule because, again, that is part of growing up. As I'm learning, we were supposed to do this podcast like 3 times, and I did not use a calendar, and I forgot twice, and so now this is like the 3rd time, I think. So, you know. We get better. We fill our schedules full of things, and we keep our schedules, and we do but because we keep schedules, that means time's allotted for, and you have to follow through on those commitments, and then time is shorter, and then there's less available free chunks of it because you're like, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this, and then these are all the commitments you've made a week or 2 weeks ago.
Right.
That I'll do this, and I've basically filled up tomorrow a week ago.
Yeah,
and so there is no room to speak for, or no time to speak for, especially. You know, so that's tough. It's tough to like take those moments. So you almost have to like, because I think it is responsible to have a schedule. I think it's responsible to plan for a future, but then you're going to have to, while you're planning for the future, you need to plan to schedule in moments to live in the moment.
That's what I was about to say. I've been trying to schedule days sometimes.
Schedule a day.
Where I don't have anything.
That's it.
You know what I mean?
That's huge, man.
So that way I can either do nothing or
try to get out there. Yeah, exactly. Just give yourself the chance, you know. Exactly. Give yourself the opportunity to go to the beach.
That's right.
And not look at your phone.
That's right. Before we start wrapping things up, so this, for people that don't know, that Saucy Brew Works, which is a local brewing company in Cleveland, Ohio, they have this thing called an artist collective where they work with different musicians around the city and give them a beer essentially for like a song release. And I was lucky enough to get a beer for this song, Phones at the Beach.
Tight.
Very cool.
Talk about the beers up. Talk about the beers up.
It is a blueberry wheat beer, which was sweet because it was, they kind of just gave me free range. Like, what kind of beer you want? And I was like,
I mean, you're a beer drinker, right?
Yeah. So I was like,
That's amazing.
I'm like, I really like blueberry wheats. And Eric over at Saucy was like, hell yeah, dude.
I'll
we
make
made
it
one.
so.
Yeah, he's like, we made one blueberry like a long time ago, and it was really good. I don't know why we didn't make another one, so it worked out great.
That's so dope.
So you, though, you will be, it's technically your beer, too, because it's ZuP and Tobyraps on the song. You have another song. You're 2 for 2, baby.
I'm 2 for 2. Who wants the third, you know?
Yeah.
That's what it's all hype, no pressure. Because, like, I didn't have to go to a brewery and talk about, you know, what beer I'm looking for or like any of the marketing things.
Right.
I just wrote a cool verse on a layover, or, you know, on a long flight, and ZuP did all the work for me. But yeah, I did another one with Apostle Jones, and
that was last year.
Yeah, it was Superstar Disaster.
Also great song.
Also
great
one
verse.
of my favorite verses I've ever written. The features. I love the features. I love the beer features.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're 2 for 2 on beer features. Maybe the third is Tobyraps does need to get a beer. Maybe that's what the third is. You know, we build, and then we pass it forward. Then I get a feature.
There you go.
You know, and then you pay
pass
that
the
forward.
Torch, yep.
Saucy.
I like that.
Hit up my DMs. I kind of love that.
This just reminded me that when we did the song, I think it was last August, I was like just did the Locally Grown episode, and I was telling about the song. I think I played it for him. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I think I'm just going to like do something that I don't normally do and just release the song. Like, you know, and my best friend Greg, he's like, no, you're not going to like what I'm going to say, but you need to hold on to this till next year, you know? And I was like, dude, it's like,
cause it was like, it was fall.
Yeah. I'm like, but I mean, like, he's like, no. Because that's what he says. Like, it's August. By the time the song, like, trust me, you want to hold on to it. And thank you, Greg, because
smart, man. I made a song called Gray.
Great song.
It's probably if there's a yin and yang, you know, Phones at the Beach,
true,
and then Gray, because Gray is just about seasonal depression. And I did it with this group called the Palmer Squares. They're dope. Coolest rappers.
Super dope.
Like some of the best rappers you will ever hear. They're amazing. They're from Chicago. Palmer Squares. Check them out. And I got the feature back in like February. You know, global warming's going on. February, it's still winter, but like even it's dialing down.
Yeah.
February's not what it used to be, you know. And I got it back the end of February, early March, pretty much like, you know, the spring's coming up of 2023.
Yeah,
exactly. And so same thing. I was like, I wanted to put it out, especially I wrote that hook a year prior.
Oh wow! So this
I always wanted to make that song. And I wrote it in one day as a Cleveland ambassador walking outside. It was freezing cold that day, and I just like wrote this song. And I loved it, and I just never made it because I just didn't. It didn't feel right. And Chris, I finally was like, dude, we got to do Gray. Did it. Made it in January. Got the feature back in February, and the same thing. I was like, I'm gonna have to wait 6 months to put this out, and I put it out in January, and it did well. It's a song did well. I love that song, and it was a good idea. It was like when it dropped. It was like a really gray, terrible day in January.
I remember that.
Yeah, it was just.
I think I even said something to you like, you couldn't have asked for a better release day for when the song.
Yeah, it was cold. It's shitty. It felt bad, and like that's. If I put that out in like May. Yeah, exactly. So felt that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And here we are though.
Yeah, exactly.
And yet here we are. It is, man. It's like no time passed too.
Mm-hmm. Dude, you're not lying about that.
I know.
Well, is there anything that you want to plug or anything you want to say, or, you know, throw your socials out there? And,
yeah, so I'm Tobyraps. I made a scheduling error, and I won't be at the, at the Saucy thing. I'm playing a show in Boston with my brother. My mom's gonna be there. It's gonna be very cute. But so come out to the show. Try the beer.
This will actually air the week after the show. So
you had the beer.
So thanks for coming out the show.
So you had the beer. How was it?
How was the beer?
Did you miss me? Was my presence felt?
Yeah.
Was the weight of my loss felt? Like, you know, my non-presence, was that palpable in the room? Am I that powerful, or I'm just kidding myself that I think I'm important?
Did Chris DiCola do a good job doing his verse?
Obviously,
yes,
he
we
did.
know
Chris
he did.
is gonna do a great job.
Yeah.
Chris, you're so good. I'm Tobyraps. What am I doing? I'm playing a show at Happy Dog on June 22nd.
I did see that.
Yeah, with Fox Ears, Mookie, and Janari. Pretty stoked on that. You should come see me do that. I'm pretty pumped.
Any music like?
I'm dropping. I got projects, y'all. I got EPs
If
dropping
you haven't
this year.
been listening to this podcast this entire time,
Yeah, I'm
you should
dropping
know.
this year for sure. I don't know at this moment. Also, from where you're listening to this, I don't know where we are, but it's coming pretty soon. Like, I'd say within the month or two, Toby's dropping.
And even if you're listening to this after that drop, something else
It might
is
have
dropping.
dropped.
And
Yeah.
something else is coming, so this is still relevant.
Yeah, Toby's dropping this year, though. 2024, Tobyraps is dropping. That's
love it.
a fact.
I love it.
I know, it's good.
Last year was such a good year for all of us. Me and Janari were talking about this recently. Like, I just feel like everybody that we all know just had such a great year last year.
Oh, it was awesome.
Yeah.
It was great. Yeah, I mean, musically.
Yeah.
Musically, it was like one of the best years I've had. Put out some of my favorite songs.
Hell yeah. Good
So,
shit.
Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.
I'm Tobyraps, and
Yeah, make sure you follow that man. He's a good guy.
put your phone down.
Yeah.
Right after you follow me, and then go for a walk. Go for a walk. You know.
Well, thank you, sir. I love you, brother.
Love you too, buddy.
I appreciate you being on
course,
here.
man.
Thank you for listening or watching. This has been the Featured Presentation Podcast, and I will see you on the next one.